Hello, guys. Good morning and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Last week we talked about identity authoring and how to protect ourselves from it. Today I'm going to be talking about hijacks and how to protect ourselves from hijacks. But first of all, what are hijacks? Well, hijacks are anything that can take over your attention, your interpretation, and your reaction before awareness comes in. Right? So, an hijack is not the thought or the emotion. An hijack is the process of unconsciously agreeing to a thought or an emotion and then acting on it. So, an hijack is basically an unconscious yes that has momentum, right? An unconscious agreement that is acted upon, an unconscious endorsement with momentum. That is what an hijack is. So, there are three types of hijack. We have the emotional hijack, the identity hijack, and then the narrative hijack. So first of all, let's talk about the emotional hijack. The emotional hijack does is it attacks your nervous system, right? So for example, something happens, you get angry, and then all of a sudden you find yourself trashing the room and just scattering stuff, right? And when you settle, you end up saying things like, "I don't know what got over me. It just happened." Well, it didn't just happen. What happened is the event triggered an emotion. Yes, and that is normal. But at some point, you unconsciously agree to that emotion, and that is when it fused with you and you act from it. So, the protection or the way to mitigate this is not denying your emotions or suppressing your emotions. No, what you have to do is just feel the emotion, right? When the event triggers an emotion, you feel it, yes, and then you choose first. You decide whether you want to act from it or not. It's that moment of decision that matters. That's what makes your reaction conscious or unconscious. That's what takes your reaction from reaction to response, right? So moving on to identity hijack. So identity hijacks are more subtle. They embed, right? Emotional hijacks, they spike in the moment, but identity hijacks, they are deeper. This is like setting blocks. So last week I said when somebody accuses you of something, your mind simulates that accusation for a split second, and in that split second the accusation can feel real. This is how identity hijacks happen. Say, for example, someone says you are lazy, right? And then your mind simulates it. You let your mind do the simulation. That is normal. But if you don't consciously correct the frame, if you don't consciously tell yourself, nah, I'm not lazy, that's not me, your mind might file it and then it becomes maybe I am. It's subtle, it's deep, it embeds, it doesn't spike. And then that maybe I am, right? In the future, you start avoiding tasks because you have already internalized that maybe I am. And that that avoidance reinforces the belief, reinforces the identity, and then the loop just keeps going like that. So that is the identity hijack. And how do you mitigate this? Identity hijacks are mitigated by denying frames that are not yours. So when somebody accuses me of something, calls me something that I'm not, I just tell myself, no, this is not me. And then the hijack has been mitigated. The identity hijack attacks your self concept, while the emotional hijack attacks your state. So when, let's say, you present an idea and it's dismissed, the emotional hijack will be embarrassment, and then the identity hijack would be I am not articulate, I am not respected, or something like that, right? So moving on to narrative hijacks. Narrative hijacks, they hijack or attack your interpretation, meaning, say, for example, you present an idea once again and then it is dismissed, you've been embarrassed, and then the identity hijack is happening. I am not articulate. The narrative hijack would be this is always happening. I'm always being avoided. I'm always being disregarded, right? And if you don't stop that, it leads to continuity. So if you look at the pattern, the emotional hijack, it spikes, it happens in the moment once, right? And then the identity hijack, right? It guides your perception, it shapes your idea of yourself, your self concept. And then the narrative hijack, it creates continuity. You start seeing connections that are not there. Say, when your idea has been dismissed and you are starting to believe, oh no, this is always happening, I'm always being disregarded, I'm always being dismissed, right? Whenever events happen that are not in any way related to that belief, right, but are somehow similar, you start drawing the same conclusions, and that reinforces the belief. So how do you mitigate this? You let events be events, right? You let that one time dismissal be that one time dismissal. You don't form a story around it. You let it be what it is, and you see that that continuity of narrative, it does not happen. So what is the deeper insight here? The deeper insight here is that when events happen and then we let ourselves be hijacked, our trajectory is changed. Our trajectory changes. Let's say something happens and I am not hijacked in any way. I stay myself. But when something happens and I am hijacked, say the same idea, the same idea presentation example, I present an idea, it gets dismissed, and from there I become embarrassed. In the moment, I adapt an identity that I am not articulate, and I am not respected, and I form a narrative that I am always being ignored, I am always being dismissed. What happens is, from that moment on, the belief reinforces itself because I'm going to see it everywhere. Everywhere I talk, every time I'm dismissed, every time somebody ignores me for some reason, right? It reinforces the belief, it reinforces the hijack, and it changes your trajectory and who you are. So guys, thanks for watching, and let's try to prevent hijacks, not by fighting the emotion, not by suppressing thoughts, but by being aware of the moment you unconsciously agree to an emotion, an urge, an idea, a thought, or a belief. This is how we prevent ourselves from being hijacked. And I'll catch you guys next week.